This man who worked at Harvard stole people's heads, brains, and skin from cadavers and sold them in the black market. 57-year-old Cedric Lodge was a Harvard Medical School morgue manager and just pleaded guilty to stealing and selling body parts from cadavers. He worked at Harvard for 30 years and ran a program where people donate their body parts for science, and it wasn't until recently that they found out he was stealing body parts. From 2018 to 2020, he secretly removed organs, brains, skin, hands, faces, and dissected heads after the bodies were used for research. Instead of disposing of the bodies, he took them home to New Hampshire. His wife was also in on this, and they sold the remains to buyers in different states. And they made good money doing this, apparently tens of thousands of dollars. Cedric pleaded guilty this week and faces up to 10 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. Harvard did fire him in 2023 and called his actions a morally reprehensible betrayal. The school also insists that he did act alone and that no other Harvard employee was involved. But get this, some human remains were also found being sold on Facebook Marketplace.
Life hacks that everyone needs to know part 2. To remove a tight ring that's stuck on your finger, all you have to do is grab a string and tuck it under the ring. And then grab that same string and wrap it around your finger, and from there all you have to do is grab the other side and start pulling. The ring will magically remove itself. All you have to do to remove tape paper without ripping it is to hold the tape from both ends and start pulling really hard, which will then cause the tape to get removed super easily. If your house key broke in the lock for some reason, just get yourself a hot glue stick and place it inside the lock just like this, and just wait for it to dry a little bit and pull it really hard, and there you have it, your key is out.
These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. The Voynich manuscript is an ancient book full of symbols and drawings that no one can translate till this day. Dracula was based on a real person, Vlad Dracula, a Romanian ruler that very much enjoyed watching people bleed to death. In 1963, the Bronx Zoo had an exhibition called The Most Dangerous Animal in the World. It was a mirror. 2 fishermen used their dead friend's ashes as fishing bait, and they caught the world's biggest carp. These are how Halloween costumes looked like in the 30s. If Earth stopped spinning for 1 second, everything and everyone will die instantly. A new homeowner found an old doll boarded up in his wall holding a note saying she killed a family in this house. This house is named the John Lawson House, and nobody knows who lives here. Every day, this porch is occupied by a number of female mannequins. The number of mannequins, the positions they're in, and the clothes they wear are changed every day, and no one knows who is doing this and why. Like for part 18.
Scary facts that will make your skin crawl. BT.6. Phobias are based on how we died in our past life. Maybe that's why we're afraid to do things we never tried, because it's how we died. Experts said that dark areas such as abandoned houses and vacant rooms are the possible places where you can feel the presence of ghosts. So if you're alone right now while reading this post, there is a chance that someone is watching you. If you're awake at night without a reason, then it means that you are awake in someone else's dreams.
Scary fun facts until the Orbeez overflow. There are microscopic mites that live in your eyelashes. Being buried alive happens so often on accident that they've now invented safety coffins. In the 1800s, dentures were made with real teeth from the deceased. Radio station UVB76 has been broadcasting since 1982. All it does is make creepy noises and nobody knows where it's broadcasting from. Chainsaws were originally invented for childbirth. The final part of Mount Everest that you have to climb is known as Rainbow Valley. They call it that because all you see is all the different colored jackets from the frozen hikers. And it looks like I'm out of time. Follow for more fun facts.
Disturbing facts that may ruin your day. You are the oldest that you have ever been and the youngest that you will ever be. Your bed absorbs 26 gallons of your sweat every year. There are 15 dead people for every 1 person alive. Science can't measure exactly how strong a gorilla is, so there's no sure way on how to contain them. The gorilla enclosures at zoos are just based on trust. Every 18 minutes, someone in the United States has a brain aneurysm that ruptures. Vampire moths are real and can feed on the blood of humans. A jar of peanut butter contains 10 or more rodent hairs and can contain up to hundreds of insect fragments. Big Bird almost joined NASA's Challenger mission to help kids become more interested in space. Millions of kids would have watched Big Bird and the Challenger space shuttle explode on live television. Follow for more.
Scary facts that will give you nightmares, part 5. First up, did you know that pigs can eat literally anything, including humans? One thing a lot of people don't know about pigs is that there have been many records of farmers dying because their pigs ate them. This is usually because while tending to the pigs, the farmers will run into an accident like falling or something, and then the pigs will feast on their body. Next up, have you ever heard of fatal familial insomnia? Well, it's a rare genetic disease that can be inherited and makes it impossible for someone to sleep for months. Since this type of insomnia can last for so long, it can leave someone so exhausted that they develop high blood pressure, weight loss, severe exhaustion, and then death. And lastly, did you know that trees can grow inside of your lungs? In Russia, doctors were performing surgery on a man because they thought he had lung cancer, but instead of a tumor, they found a 5-centimeter tree branch in his lungs. They later found out that he swallowed a fir bud, which then grew into a tree branch.
We made dire bees almost 70 years ago, and we have not stopped paying for it. In the 1950s, folks flew in African honeybees to Brazil because they figured they could breed them with European honeybees in the hopes of making a hybrid better bee, one that was more productive than Euro bees and less on-site than Afro bees, because Afro bees are black Air Force tier of trouble. Brazilian beekeepers used excluder screens to keep the African queens from getting out. Problem is, they did not tell the new guys. Someone saw the screen screening and was like, oh, we can't have that, and removed the screen, sending 26 African queens and swarms of Euro bees into Brazil, which quickly led to Africanized honeybees, or more known as killer bees. You see, generational trauma then made these African bees that much more trigger happy. Normally, a European queen bee will usually send out 20 to 30 attack bees at once. African honey queens unload half the whole clip, sending thousands, sometimes 30,000 attack bees at once. Not only that, but they chase people further than Euro bees and sting 10 times as much, with cases of people being tailgated by an angry swarm for a quarter of a mile. There's even stories of swarms waiting directly above a body of water so that the moment the runner comes up for air, all he gets is smoke. Over 1,000 people have been turned past tents by an air force of spite flies. And after being released in Brazil in '57, they hit America in the '90s like Will Smith and left their mark like the Fresh Prince left on Chris. And to add insult, they also somehow nerfed the honey industry, so nature really slapped us for cutting corners. And today, Africanized honeybees are like a rash infecting the US Southwest. Moral of the story, be better or be turned into letters, 3 in particular, the more you know.
The strangest places in the world, part 1. Firstly, on top of a hill in Pennsylvania, some stones can be found that shouldn't actually be there, because there's no nearby high terrain where they could have originated. These are called the ringing rocks, because whenever something hits these stones, they make a strange ringing noise. Next is the petrifying well in England, where water flows from a rock and turns whatever it touches into stone. As you can see, people often leave items like hats, teddy bears, or even bicycles, which appear to have already been turned into stone. Some people believe there's a mystical power, but the scientific reason behind this is the unusually high mineral content in the water, which forms a hard mineral shell on any object it comes into contact with. And within a few months, everything essentially becomes a stone statue.
The parents of 20-year-old Sudiksha Konanki believe that their daughter drowned in the ocean in the Dominican Republic and are pushing authorities to declare her deceased. Sudikshka's parents also said that they don't believe Joshua Ripe, who was the last person seen with their daughter before she went missing, to be involved in her death. Joshua also testified that Sudikshka's parents hugged and thanked him for trying to save their daughter's life. Now, authorities were really surprised that Sudikshka's parents asked to declare their daughter deceased after only 12 days of her going missing, when usually investigations go on for months before they stop looking for someone. But I don't know, in this case, it seems like their parents are genuinely convinced that Joshua didn't do anything to hurt their daughter, and I guess after seeing all the surveillance footage of both of them together before she went missing, the only other possibility is that she drowned in the ocean. This is the last time Sudikshka and Joshua were seen together at the resort, and a lot of people have speculated that perhaps Sudikshka was abducted on the beach after Joshua fell asleep, because remember, they were both really intoxicated. But I don't know, that seems very unlikely, especially at a resort in the Dominican Republic where, for the most part, it's pretty safe.
Animal group names that should be illegal for how happy they make me for free. A group of ferrets is called a business, which means I can finally show this picture without being out of context. And if that sounds too professional, just remember this first Slinky's Latin name means stinky weasel thief. A group of vultures is called a wake, but only when they're eating. When they're flying, they're called a kettle. A group of porcupines is a prickle. A prickle of porcupines, which also describes how they mate. A plurality of platypus is a paddle. Several sloths are a snuggle. A group of baboons in one place is a congress. No comment. A group of crows is scientifically referred to as a murder. Did you know crows will investigate the cause of death when a member of their murder croaks? They'll also seemingly mourn the dead and grieve the loss of their... never mind. A group of ravens is an unkindness, and for the record, if you want to know the difference, if you're wondering if it's a crow or raven, it's a crow. And if you're wondering what in the Edgar Allan Nevermore looking it's probably a raven. Unkindness comes from the idea that ravens are deadbeat parents that often evict their chicks before they're even ready. They're also called a conspiracy. You know what else is a conspiracy? A lot of lemurs. This entire scene is a conspiracy, and the biggest one is that ring-tailed lemurs are female dominated, so King Julian is actually a queen and a Julia. A group of parrots is a pandemonium, and once upon a time, a parrot was kicked out of a former president's funeral because he kept swearing through the service, so yeah, pandemonium. And lastly, a group of alpacas is a herd. But an alpaca giving birth is called an unpacking. Send it back.
Another cold case has been solved thanks to DNA. On December 23, 1983, 24-year-old Ronald Lee Novak was found dead in his home in rural Walker, Iowa. He was found by a friend with his hands tied behind his back in an unheated room in his apartment in the dead of winter in Iowa. He had been beaten and shot, but it was determined that his cause of death was a combination of his injuries, shock, and hypothermia. Investigators believed he was killed in a robbery or burglary gone wrong, but they had no suspects, and unfortunately, his case went cold. But over the last decade, DNA from Ronald's case was being tested, including DNA from his clothing and from a hammer found in his home believed to be used in the attack. Genetic genealogy allowed investigators to narrow the DNA down to 3 brothers, and then further DNA testing revealed that it was likely that 64-year-old Michael Schappert, who now lives in Fairview, Oregon, was the likely killer. The investigation revealed that Schappert, quote, likely went to Novak's home with the intent to rob him of money and marijuana. And now, more than 40 years after Ronald Novak's murder, he has been arrested. Schappert was arrested in Oregon and is being held there pending extradition to Iowa, and he is facing first-degree murder charges. The case is not completely closed, though, because it is believed that at least one more suspect was involved in Ronald's murder. Lynn County Sheriff Brian Gardner said, quote, by naming a suspect, it may cause other people to now come forward that maybe weren't willing to do so previously. Or maybe this has jogged their memory some 41 years later. Ronald's sister said after the arrest that the investigation has been a long ride for the family, and she didn't know if she would ever see this day come. She said, quote, you start to give up hope that there will be an answer. I wanted it so bad. We look forward to the trial. At least now Ronald's family has answers, and hopefully he will soon be getting the justice he deserves. Rest in peace, Ronald.
These are some
If you could rack your brain right now to ask yourself what is the most disturbing Disney Channel original movie, which one would you pick? If you chose Don't Look Under the Bed, you're correct, because the movie actually almost never even made it to television. Any of the sequences that did eventually make the cut were considered so disturbing, this is actually one of the only Disney Channel original movies that has a TV PG rating. Anne Sweeney, who was the president of Disney Channel at the time, as well as countless other executives, had a lot of issues with this film. And even to this day, there are still some sequences, some scenes that have never seen the light of day. They were not going to be included in the movie. And I think in part, the credit should go to the director, who was really trying to creatively push the boundaries of what could be included in children's horror. Even just beyond the disturbing imagery, they explored some pretty dark themes in a children's movie, starting to play with psychological horror when Frances can see things that everybody else thinks she's crazy for. In 2006, Disney Channel had to pull it from the October catalog. It will not be on Disney Channel again.
YouTubers who became murderers, part 1. This was the YouTuber Elliot Rogers' last video.
Tomorrow is the day of retribution. The day in which I will have my revenge against humanity, against all of you.
This was called the Day of Retribution. The son of a Hollywood filmmaker killed 6 people. Roger left the car and saw students across the street. He shot at them, taking the life of Veronica Weiss and Catherine Cooper. The suspect proceeded on foot and fired several rounds into the deli. One of the bullets struck and took the life of a student named Christopher Martinez. Then he drove down the left side of the road so he could fire at 2 pedestrians. Police then came running across the park, and Roger fired at them as he drove. But he was struck in the left hip. After he hit a cyclist, he crashed his car into the back of an SUV. He then ended the rampage by taking his own life.
Mommy told me something a little girl should know. It's all about the devil.
This guy in Brazil would dress up as Batman with a red hood. He even had his own homemade weapons like the batarang and everything. He would break into suspected criminals' homes and just beat them senseless. This is as close to lore-accurate Batman as we might get. His name is Rodrigo Rodrigues da Silva. He was also known as the Punisher of Paranaíba in Brazil. He was arrested back in 2023. When he broke in, he had like bladed gauntlets, like the batarang, a utility belt full of different weapons and stuff. He also told police he had intentions to use all of his weapons on the person's home that he broke into. In Brazil, homicides are very, very prevalent in the country. He got kind of sick of all these criminals getting away with it, so he decided to take justice into his own hands. I forgot one more thing. He also had a submachine gun on him. It's not pictured here, but crazy. And mind you, these are suspected criminals, so maybe some of these aren't confirmed criminals, but it's just crazy to think about, Batman breaking into your home and just beating you senseless at night. And the work that he put in to make his suit and his weapons and everything, crazy stuff. Let me know your thoughts in the comments.
Her father took her own life because he was getting jealous of how successful she was becoming in film. Judith Eva Barcy was born on June 6 of 1978 in Los Angeles, California. Her parents, Joseph and Maria, were originally from Hungary and had met at a restaurant in California. From a very young age, Maria was fascinated with Hollywood and was determined to make her daughter famous. Judith was discovered while she was ice skating one day and was asked to come out in a commercial. From there, it was just the start of her career, and she came out in the movies All Dogs Go to Heaven and Land Before Time. Judith was very small for her age, and she even started taking hormone injections to make herself grow. Her success helped her family thrive, and she was making about $100,000 a year, and her parents used that to buy a 3-bedroom house in Los Angeles. Although Judith's career was thriving, something sinister was going to happen behind the scenes. Judith's father had drinking problems, and he was angry with his daughter's success. He had threatened to unalive all 3 of them and had even gotten arrested 3 times for driving under the influence. Many of Maria's friends told her to leave her husband, but she refused because she was scared that she was going to lose the house, her belongings, and that he would unalive her somehow. On July 27th of 1988, around 8:30 a.m., the family's neighbor was watering her garden when she heard an explosion. That neighbor rushed to call 911 because she was afraid that Joseph had unalived his family. That neighbor was right because Joseph had shot Maria and Judith in the head and then poured gasoline everywhere and then shot himself. Judith and Maria were buried together in Hollywood Hills, California, and Joseph is said to be in an unmarked grave.
This might be the most insane case of police cover-up I've ever seen in my entire life. Arrest has finally been made in the murder of Sandra Birchmore, whose death was staged to look like she unalived herself 3 years ago. So all of this started back in 2010 when Sandra was just 12 years old. She enrolls in the county's police youth program where her alleged killer, Officer Matthew Farwell, is an instructor. At some point, Officer Farwell, who's 27 years old, begins grooming Sandra, and by the time she's 15, they're having a full-on intimate relationship, if you know what I mean. When Sandra turns 18, she's obviously aged out of the program but maintains a relationship with Officer Farwell, who is married with children. In October of 2020, Sandra tells Farwell that she wants a child, and he apparently agrees to get her pregnant in exchange for her silence about the statutory R word and extramarital affair. 2 months later, Sandra's pregnant, and after Farwell finds out, he becomes physically violent with Sandra. She told multiple friends that Farwell had pushed her, shoved her, and even placed her in a chokehold. In January the following year, someone called the police department and leaked this information. When the employee told Farwell about this phone call, he became visibly angry and told them to keep this information secret. Within days of that phone call, Farwell starts to allegedly plan Sandra's murder. All of a sudden, he wants a spare key to her apartment. 2 days after that, he starts canvassing her apartment, looking for places to carry out the murder. He inspected her bathroom closet, specifically places where items could be hung, and his behavior was strange enough that Sandra told multiple friends that she was concerned. A week later, on February 1st, Farwell enters Sandra's apartment wearing a face mask where police say he strangled her to death. He then staged it to make it look like she unalived herself, hanging her body on a closet doorknob. Oh, and by the way, while Farwell was allegedly committing this murder, his wife was in the hospital giving birth. The state medical examiner ruled her death as self-inflicted, even though it obviously wasn't. Her family ended up hiring a private medical examiner who did rule it as a homicide. After years of a federal investigation and her family refusing to stay silent, Matthew Farwell has finally been indicted for her murder.
He is interested in blondes. I'm not blonde, I'm a brunette. So I'd go in the shower, take fingernail clippers, and just cut my hair off. Trying to do everything I can to get his attention again. I would have given anything to that man. I would have bought the sun, the moon, and the stars and gave it to him on a platter. And that hurts me that I loved him that much.
Why does it hurt you?
Because I feel like no one is ever gonna love him as much as I loved him at that time. And it makes me feel better knowing that he's truly sorry for hurting me. But it doesn't change anything. Like, I married Ryan. I have a marriage now. I'm wearing this wedding ring that belonged to Ryan's mom. Like, I have a commitment to my husband. And I want to keep that. But what's gonna happen when Ryan and I have an argument? Is that little thought in the back of my head gonna say, Ken is single?
Jeffrey Dahmer targeted this 14-year-old boy. The police found him naked, bleeding from his rectum and everything, and Jeffrey Dahmer convinced the police to return him. He told the police that was his boyfriend. They had an argument. Police returned him to Dahmer, and then he got mutilated that night and killed. His name was Konorak Simpthasophone. And like I said, he was found naked, drugged, and bleeding from his rectum on a street corner, and police returned him to Jeffrey Dahmer. Like, dude, if you're seeing blood on somebody, maybe investigate, ask some more questions. His death was also absolutely horrific. He had a hole drilled into his head, and then Jeffrey Dahmer poured acid inside of it to try to recreate a real-life zombie out of him. He was trying to melt the kid's brains out. I think if the kid acted out and got arrested by police, he would have had a better chance to live. This is just so crazy that you would see the kid in this condition and decide to return him to, like, the person that's claiming to be his boyfriend. Hell, even if it was his boyfriend, right? Just look at the situation he's in, dude. Just investigate more. There's obviously some sort of abuse going on here. But it is sickening how much Jeffrey Dahmer actually got away with. This is just one of his many sick and twisted ways that he killed people. Let me know your thoughts in the comments.
People are just finding out about the 500-year-old girl who is coming back to life. Stick with me because you're in for a wild ride, as you can see here. I did a video on this a long time ago, but for some reason it's circulating round again right now, freaking people out online and on social media, so here we go. So this mummy right here is known as La Doncella, or the Children of the Lulacana. These different mummies here are all part of the same family, the Children of the Lulacanu, where this group of mummies were found preserved at the top of the Lulacanu volcano. But just wait, because it's crazy. This is the Lulacano volcano, which they were found right at the summit of this. And as you can imagine, it's pretty high up and pretty damn cold. The first crazy part is that look how realistic she looks right now, and she's over 500 years old. But with all of these people being believed to have lived in the 14 and 1500s, and it's also believed they were and sacrificed when they were only around 13 years old, then buried and left at the top of this. Now where it gets even more interesting, of course, the archaeologists found these preserved bodies with all the body features and everything still being there after 500 years. Normally you'd be gone, mate. But this is how you might imagine someone who had passed away about 20-30 years ago at tops. But by far the craziest bit out of all of this, I know you're waiting for it, she's coming back to life. Essentially, what happened is the scientists who were doing the tests when they got these preserved mummies obviously wanted to figure out how the hell is this possible. Of course, from being at the altitude and those sort of temperatures, it froze her body and her insides. So they found her organs perfectly intact, healthier than probably some of you, and even frozen blood still in her body and in her veins. So she was basically the first person to get cryogenically frozen. Now, no, she's not necessarily coming back to life, just going to get up and start walking again. All of these mummies are now in a museum. But the point of what people have been saying is she could technically come back to life. I actually saw a few scientists have said that it could potentially be possible, but it's not exactly going to be the easiest thing in the world, so I highly doubt it.
Curtain number 1 is correct.
If someone is trying to make you decide in a hurry, they are probably giving you a bad deal. Walk away. If someone has a panic attack, start breathing regularly and loudly. The person that is panicking will subconsciously start breathing in rhythm with you. When a group of people laugh, they tend to look at the person they like the most. Nervousness and excitement have the same body reaction, so if you're nervous for a speech, trick yourself into thinking you're actually excited. If you think someone is watching you, fake a yawn, then watch them. Get someone to contribute to an idea and they will more likely accept it. If you whisper to someone, it's more likely they will whisper back even if there's no good reason to lower your voice. If you want to make someone feel uncomfortable, look at their forehead while you're talking to them. If you want somebody to open up to you, ask them a question. If the person only partially answers it, remain silent and keep eye contact. This will pressure the person into talking more. If you want to be more persuasive, reduce the use of the words I think and I believe. Touching someone on their shoulder or on their knee creates a stronger emotional bond with that person. Chew gum if you are still nervous. Our brains assume that if we are eating, then we are not in any immediate danger, lowering our fight or flight response. When you approach a group of people, notice if they turn their feet towards you or away from you. If their feet point away from you, you are probably not welcome. Subtly nodding when people are talking to you indicates that you are genuinely interested in what they are having to say and they're going to like you more. If you take a moment to look at someone's eye color when meeting them, you'll be giving them the perfect amount of eye contact. If there is a mirror behind where you are ordering, you are less likely to be rude because nobody wants to see themselves actually be rude. If you buy the first pitcher at the bar with your friends, you'd be surprised how far you could go by saying, I bought the first one. If someone is making jokes at your expense, act like you can't hear them and ask them to repeat it multiple times. By the time they say it a third or fourth time, nobody's laughing. When someone remembers you, they are most likely going to remember the first memory and the last memory of you. So make sure you always leave a good last impression too. After you have learned how to do something new and have done it yourself, the fastest way to retain that information is to teach somebody else. If you have a song stuck in your head and you can't get it out, try and listen to the whole song all the way through while singing it. Your brain is treating the song like an unfinished task in your subconscious. Plan something for every Wednesday that you can look forward to. You'll start to look forward to it on Monday, and by the time Wednesday comes around, you're already halfway through the week and almost to the weekend. If you ask someone to do a small favor for you, their subconscious mind is going to register that they like you because they're doing a favor for you. Showing the palms of your hands while talking to someone subconsciously communicates that you have nothing to hide and that you can be trusted. Whenever you're introducing a new idea to someone and you lead with the words, this might not be for you, but, it intrigues their interest and makes it feel like it probably is for them. If you need to remember to do something tomorrow, put something in your room out of place. If you don't want to get out of bed, throw your pillow across the room. The next day, you will see this item out of place and it will jog your memory of what you need to accomplish. If you're procrastinating, just stop telling yourself how much work you have to do. This will overwhelm you. Instead, tell yourself you only have to work for 5-10 minutes, and then you're likely going to continue working past those minutes. People who are lying will normally blink more than normal, hide the palms of their hands, glance up to the right, mess with their hair, or use abnormally long sentences. If you're trying to get over a breakup, do not use fictional scenarios. Imagining your person with someone new is only going to make you more angry and sad about something that's not even real. If you want to create a deeper connection with someone you're interested in, ask them these two questions. What do you think we have in common? And what do you like most about me? If you are suffering from racing thoughts, use the 3-3-3 rule. Name 3 things you see, 3 things you hear, and 3 parts of your body. This will help center your mind and bring you back to the present. When someone apologizes for something that you don't feel like was that big of a deal to apologize for, they're probably telling you subconsciously what actually bothers them if it was done to them. If they apologize for interrupting you, they probably really just don't like being interrupted themselves. Follow for more psychology hacks.